In this video, I go through 5 things that Hasbro needs to stop doing with the vintage collection. Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video. And as I mentioned in the intro, in this video I'm going to be talking about 5 things that I wish Hasbro would stop doing with the vintage collection. So these are basically things that I believe either hurt the health of the line or just annoy the fan base completely, and in some case both of these things apply. Now these aren't going to be in any particular order or anything, but before we get started I just want to say a big thank you to all of my new subscribers. We are well on the way to reaching 25,000 subscribers, which is quite unbelievable, so thank you so much for that. And also a big shout out to all of my Patreon supporters and channel members for the extra support. With all that being said, if you do happen to enjoy the video, don't forget to hit the like button down below and leave a comment with what annoys you most about the vintage collection. Okay, so number 1, we have inaccuracies from the source material. Exhibit A, Cassian Andor Aldhani mission. Now at the time of recording this video, we do only have the press images to go by, but as you can see, the boots on this figure have been taken from the Shore Trooper and are therefore inaccurate to the source material. In a recent Q&A, I asked why they chose to do this, and the answer was, unfortunately, came down to cost and the budget. This obviously wasn't the answer that we wanted to hear, but I guess at least they're being honest. The issue for me is that the Black Series announced the same figure at pretty much the same time, and yep, you have guessed it, the Black Series version is accurate to the source material. Now the 6-inch version, to the best of my knowledge, is also a store exclusive, so doesn't affect the main line. So Hasbro, when you have a partial tool figure slot in a wave, please stop putting out an inaccurate main character. This just shouldn't happen in my opinion. Exhibit B, figurine Dan with the pockets on his trousers. Now I do realise this isn't a main character, but it is just another example of the inaccuracy for the vintage collection when the Black Series gets an all-new figure. With regards to Cassian, considering we don't have any other figures from the Aldhani mission, I think they could have skipped this altogether rather than put out that inaccurate version. Number 2 is strange choices with case assortments. Now this isn't something that really affects the UK so much, as most of our retailers order solid cases of the same figure, but for retailers in the US, case selection is actually key. We can all see the negative effect packing 3 Lando Calrissians in a case of 8 had on the store shelves and the pegs. Go into any local Walmart or Target and you will probably see a bunch of Lando Calrissians peg warming next to a bunch of retro collection Obi-Wan figures that nobody wants. Now these large department stores may be reluctant to order future waves of TVC because they believe it just doesn't sell. You can also see the amount of pegs that they allocate for the vintage collection has got smaller and smaller over the years. The Lando Calrissian figure was also an all-new tooling figure, so the appetite to make more all-new OT characters might diminish for Hasbro. It doesn't seem like any lessons have been learned either. Take the upcoming wave with the aforementioned Cassian Andor Aldhani mission figure. That has been packed twice when the army building clone trooper has only been packed once. To me it makes no sense, and unfortunately I can see that Cassian figure being a bit of a peg warmer. So Hasbro, please make smarter decisions on case assortments. The Lando peg warming issue is completely on you. Number 3 is gimmicky repaints. These are not needed in the vintage collection. Maybe Black Series collectors will also agree here, but I do not need or want a shiny, glittery version of Moff Gideon or Cara Dune or the Death Trooper for that matter. I can think of far better ways to sell straight repainted figures if that's what they want to do. If you look at the Genndy Clone Wars figures for example, those were a nice addition to the line. I wouldn't overdo it and release multiple waves of those figures, but the 6 that we got were pretty decent. I guess as TVC collectors, we should be thankful that the credit collection never made its way into the line. A purple Grief Karga? No thank you. Number 4 is key characters. Hasbro, please stop cutting corners with key characters. Minor updates to a figure from 15 plus years ago is not okay. Exhibit A, Princess Leia Endor. A new head and helmet and a more accurate poncho isn't good enough for one of the main characters from Return of the Jedi. The figure, due to its limited articulation, cannot sit properly on the new speeder bike, and when comparing this version to the all-new Black Series version, it really is another punch to the gut. Another good example is the recently revealed Han Solo. Corners have been cut once again. Using older parts from the young Han Solo, the designer has almost been forced to put a torso cut just so they can retool the upper body. As my good friend Chris from Bantha Skull says, "Tuna, how is it possible that we have an all-new Mythrol with all the articulation that you'll ever need, but we don't have a definitive Han Solo? It makes no sense." Now, the Mythrol is a brilliant figure from a great show, do not get me wrong, absolutely brilliant. But this is Han Solo from Return of the Jedi. We shouldn't have to make do. Number 5. Taking years to put out figures from the same scene, or worse, the same squad. Exhibit A, the Rogue One team. We are still missing 2 main characters in Baze Malbus and Bodhi Rook. Spoiler alert, the other scale have them all, some of them twice. Now, I was very pleased when they did reveal and release Chirrut Imwe a couple of years ago now in the Vintage Collection. A really nice figure, but surely that would mean that we would get Baze Malbus soon after, right? You would think. Exhibit B, the Bad Batch. Now, Hunter is on the way in his Season 1 outfit, even though the show is now halfway through Season 2. So how long do we have to wait to complete the crew? To be honest, I would rather have them not bothered with Hunter at all if it meant that I'd have to wait 3 years to complete the crew. Heck, for all we know, they may never make them at all. With all the new media on the horizon, it's easy to see that the Bad Batch could be forgotten pretty quickly, especially when new figure slots are at a premium. But guess what? The Black Series have the whole crew already, and an Imperial version of Crosshair to boot. I think Wrecker was the only one that came out a little bit later, but from what I can remember, most of them came out pretty much at the same time. So there you have it. 5 things that I think Hasbro need to stop doing with the Vintage Collection. A little bit ranty, a little bit negative. Maybe I'll do a video on the 5 things that I think that they've done right, just to balance things up a bit. There's that word again. Balance. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.